So today I wanted to talk about some of the video games that have really inspired me as a person and me in my writing and have provided me so many hours of enjoyment. I really do love video games. Video games have been a very big part of my life. I don't play video games as often as I did when I was in college or when I was a teenager, but I still love to play video games from time to time. Uh, so my first I think that it's probably better to put these in an ordered list, but I'm not totally committed to the top five structure. Number five, I would put definitely Journey, which is a game by I think Santa Monica Studio, and it is a really exceptional game for a number of reasons. I remember when I first played it, I was a freshman in college, and what I remember the most, like, about that first experience was how minimalistic it was. Like, you're just thrown in there, you're in a desert, and you're just told to basically move the controls or to move the analog sticks. And what surprised me was how fluid it felt. Like, this is the same controller that I had played numerous games on. And I remember that, like, it just felt so fluid. Like, it felt so natural. Playing that game was one of the most natural experiences I've ever had in a video game. Probably the most fluid experience I've ever had. And it was such an achievement because it showed how unnecessary dialogue can be. It showed how you can tell an incredible story without needing to fall back on cutscenes. There are sort of cutscenes, but it's not like cutscenes with dialogue. And it was just so pretty. So it was it felt so good to go through that experience. It was a lot like doing yoga. That's what I really think it was like. It was like doing yoga in a video game. So my number four pick is going to be Dark Souls. So Dark Souls is a masochistic mess. It's so hard. You hate so much of your life while you're playing it because it's so brutal. It's so punishing. One of the mechanics of this game is that you only level up by, instead of having experience, you accumulate souls, which are what you get when you defeat an enemy, right? And progressively with each level, it takes more and more souls to level up. And what's more is souls are the currency of the game. The thing is that when you die, you lose your souls, but you do have it. It's forgiving in one regard, which is when you die, you have the opportunity to go back to the spot where you died and reclaim that number of souls. But if you die again before you reclaim those souls are gone forever. So as the further that you get in the game, the more punishing it can start to feel. But it's a very beautiful game in its own way. Even I know that's weird to say because it's so dark, but like there is so much world building that happens in the small details. There's really not much dialogue that happens. Like, you might stumble across like some very burnt out kind of a guy who's like chilling out, and he might say like a couple weird things to you. But for the most part, the kind of details that you get about the world that you live in are either from the intro of the game or they are from like the item descriptions. So it gives you very little, but as you go through the game, you develop a very comprehensive portrait of what this world is. And the other Dark Souls games are probably better. I think that Dark Souls 1 might be the easiest one, but the thing is that I've never actually beaten the other ones. So I felt a little bit weird saying that, but Dark Souls 3, I just want to say, is probably my favorite as far as the world building goes. And they just have some really cool names, like the Abyss Watchers, like Farron's Undead Legion. They all have cool names like that. So it's cool, especially if you're like me and you like heavy metal music. Then you kind of to be quite honest with you, like, the thing that I've always liked most about metal music was the names of the bands, or the names that the bands would use. Like, there would be some kind of Lovecraftian monster in a metal song, and it'd be called something like Yarfilmosh, Smasher of Baptisms. And this is what monsters are like in Dark Souls. My number 3 pick is Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII was a game that I played for the first time in 2007, when long after, 10 years after the game had come out for the PlayStation. And I didn't have a PC, so I couldn't play the port. There was a port and it was sort of accessible. So I basically had to shell out $70 to buy it on eBay. And the reason why I wanted to play it so badly was because I'd seen Advent Children, and Advent Children was really cool, and I'd played Kingdom Hearts, and I was aware of these amazing characters, but I didn't know anything about them really, and I didn't know their context, and I wanted to experience the story without just like watching some cutscenes online. And I was blown away by it. I think that I basically hid underground for a whole summer and played this game, and it hit me on a lot of levels. I think that the atmosphere of Final Fantasy is really precious, and what brings it to life is the soundtrack. It has my favorite video game soundtrack of all time, and it hits you with all the right places. Like the main theme of Final Fantasy VII, I think, really encapsulates everything that you want from a fantasy experience, or at least that I wanted. And I think that I really just fell in love with the characters, and I didn't know what to expect from anything as far as Final Fantasy VII went. So like I was still surprised when Aerith, it's not a spoiler if something's like more than 20 years old, right? Yeah, I don't think that's not a spoiler anymore. Aerith dying is like, you can't spoil like the Ragnarok, like in the Norse mythology, and you can't spoil like the death of Superman. So I don't think that you could spoil like Aerith getting killed by Sephiroth. So people will ask me from time to time if like I'm excited about they're releasing a new Final Fantasy VII remake, and it's going to be great, is what everybody says. I don't have a PS4 though, so I don't know if I'll be able to play it. I will say this: Final Fantasy VII is available on many ports right now. The thing is that the random battle system has not aged well in general. Like Pokemon has removed their random battle system, and you have the option in the Final Fantasy VII game of turning that off. You also have the option of removing the basically just automatically leveling up to 99. I think that's honestly not a bad thing, because I don't know what it is, but our culture has changed and we've changed, and I just don't get the same joy out of grinding anymore. So yeah, but it's Final Fantasy VII's there. It's totally accessible. So my number 2 pick is Shadow of the Colossus, which is a gorgeous game, and I think that there's only a little bit of exposition in this game. Like there's a voice of like, maybe it's a deity, and it's like, it's not actual words, it just talks like that, and you see like words appear on the screen. And in Shadow of the Colossus I think that there's only like 7 or 10 enemies that you defeat in that game. Like a lot of the game, you just spend like galloping on your horse in this very beautiful landscape, and the game developers went so above and beyond in building that world, and it's just you and this world, and it's very esoteric, for lack of a better word. It's so gorgeous. I think Shadow of the Colossus is a spiritual experience, and I think something that's a testament to this is that there was this community of people who for like 10 years were just trying to find like secrets of Shadow of Colossus, and they believed that there was like some kind of like a secret cavern that was available that the game developers had hidden through all these mysteries, and there was never actually this kind of a cavern, but they learned everything, and they mapped out everything about this world, and it was such an epic like ode of love to the game from these fans that when they remastered Shadow of the Colossus, the developers actually created that space that they were all looking for, which is really sweet. So the last game that I wanted to talk about, which I put up as my number 1, is Ico, which is made by the same people who made Shadow of the Colossus. And Ico is just, it had every like element that I loved about Shadow of the Colossus, but it's less lonely. It's less lonely because you have a friend. So basically, you're this boy who winds up in this very dark. It's a charming castle. It would be a charming castle if not for the fact that there are these little eerie shadow beings that crawl out, and these shadow beings they don't really mean you ill will. The only thing they're trying to do is they're trying to kidnap your friend, who's an older girl. And so for the most of this game, you're just going around this castle trying to navigate all these puzzles and find a way out, while all of these shadow beings are trying to pull your friend away. So you have to fend them off with like a stick. And it's really creepy when the shadow beings kidnap your friend, and because they'll try to drag her into like a shadow hole, and it's so freaky when they do that. It really is. Like the music changes and it gets so dark, and the unfortunately the thing is that you can only progress in the game if at certain times you take a risk and you leave your friend unattended, because there are some things that you can only do by yourself, right? So it's a very scary game at times, but it's so beautiful, and the moment, and like it's like you every moment you feel like you are in peril. But there are these rare moments when you can save the game, where there's basically like these sofas made of stone, and you sit on these sofas, and that's how you save. Those are your save points, and it feels so nice to just chill out, like when you reach a save point and just like watch the screen for like a minute and be like, okay, I've made it this far, we can relax. And it's so tranquil to see these characters just like chill out and like then just walk away from the game. I don't think that Ico is a game that you binge. I think that it's a game that like you fight tooth and nail, and you need lots of breaks, because it can really make you anxious. Anyway, so those are my 5 favorite games, and I hope that you enjoyed listening to me talk about them. I think that it's nice to talk about something that's not books. I love books more than anything, and I'm going to talk about books again very soon. But I hope that this gave you a very interesting snapshot into some of my interests outside of books. Have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I seriously wish you the best. Thank you.